Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wassalam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in amma ba'd. Inshallah, we get started tonight. If there are any questions from the brothers here, Fadl Abu Muhammad.
Sheikh, I just want to ask you, um, sometimes I feel like if I don't make a azkar, the morning especially, and I'm afraid that my day is going to go really bad.
Okay.
I'm gonna come across a lot of problems, and then I mean, like, is it wrong to think that I need, like, maybe I'm thinking depending too much on the azkar and not so much on Allah, but do you think this is like way of me reaching Allah through the azkar, or I mean, is it right for me to think, oh, if I don't make azkar, I'm gonna have some climate and I'm gonna have some difficulty, something is gonna fall upon me, you know?
Clear.
And I just want to remind you, remember you told me about it's a battle between you and those who want to harm you, so the day you're not prepared, they might be able to overtake you. You know what I mean?
Right. Question is regarding a person worrying that something is going to befall them or happen to them if they don't make their adhkar, especially the adhkar of the sabah and the masa, of morning and of night. Is this wrong? Is that right? Do the adhkar protect you? And what if I'm depending too much on the adhkar and not enough upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Well, the one who told you to make the adhkar and ordered you to remember him abundantly is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when you make the adhkar that are proper adhkar from Quran and Sunnah, then you're mentioning Allah. You're remembering Allah, you're seeking Allah's protection, you're seeking His help, you're seeking refuge. And if you don't seek Allah's protection, you don't seek Allah's refuge, you don't ask Allah to help you and to be there for you, then of course, anything can happen to you. وَإِن يَخْذُلْكُمْ If Allah forsakes you, who can support you? Allah says, إِن يَنصُرْكُمْ اللَّهُ فَلَا غَالِبَ لَكُمْ If Allah is your supporter, your ally, no one can take power over you. And if Allah forsakes you, meaning if Allah leaves you to yourself, if Allah leaves you to your own strength and ability, no one can help you afterwards. So mention Allah Azza wa Jal in the morning, in the night, in the afternoon, the adhkar that from the Quran and Sunnah, that is mentioning Allah, and that is a means of fearing Allah and obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there's no contradiction between the two, as long as the adhkar are proper. As far as it's a made up dhikr, or making the adhkar of someone or something else, that's a different story. But if you're making the dhikr of Allah Azza wa Jal, that's from the Quran and Sunnah, you're remembering Allah, and you're being thankful of Allah, and there is no way that you can be more dependent on the adhkar and not on Allah, because being dependent on Allah is through the adhkar. So they go hand in hand. They go hand in hand, inshallah ta'ala. And then diversify your ibadah. Read the Quran, make the adhkar, do physical worship, physical sadaqah, and things like this. And just know for sure that Allah is in control, and nothing is going to befall you unless Allah wills it. And something could happen to you by not making the adhkar, and something may not happen to you. There are many non-Muslims that Allah grants them respite. He gives them some type of safety, some type of comfort, some type of luxury in this dunya. And it doesn't mean that just because a person doesn't make a dhikr, immediately he's going to be afflicted by something. Wallahu alam.
Initials NH, Toronto, Canada. If I intended to do an optional fast, but then I missed Fajr by oversleeping, and as soon as I wake up, I pray Fajr, can I keep fasting? Would the rule apply to making a Ramadan fast as well?
Right. With regards to an optional fast that a person had the intention for at night, I'm supposing, and they overslept for Salatul Fajr, they didn't eat, they didn't drink, they didn't have sexual intercourse, can they fast that optional day? But either there's nothing wrong with that, inshallah. It's permissible as long as you didn't eat, drink, or break your fast before the time of Salatul Dhuhr is approaching. La bas, inshallah. There's nothing wrong with that. As far as making up a mistake in Ramadan, then you're making up something fard. And it's not nafilah. It's fard. Alright? What's important is that if you made your intention at nighttime, then class. Or let's rewind the tape. Doesn't matter. Fard or nafil. Eating suhoor, making fajr on time is not a condition of a valid fast, as long as you had the intention at nighttime. So a person says, I want to make up my missed Ramadan days tomorrow, and then I overslept. I woke up at 10 a.m. and I didn't eat anything. No different, no problem. And the same applies to a nafilah fast. The problem, what I meant to say, was when a person wakes up without the intention to make the voluntary fasts. and they didn't eat, drink, or have intercourse. Then they can say at 10 a.m., you know what, let me fast. 11 a.m., you know what, let me fast. But if a person had the intention to do it from the nighttime, that's totally valid. Even if they overslept, they didn't have suhoor and things like this. These things do not affect the validity of the fast. Fard or nafil. Fard or nafil. إنما العمل بالنية. والله أعلم.
Muhammad Salah Farbaniya Kuwait, is doing for the sake of Allah and seeking reward from Allah the same thing?
Question, it says, is doing for the sake of Allah and seeking the reward from Allah the same thing? It's similar to the previous question. Similar. When you do something for the sake of Allah, you have sincerity, al-ikhlas. You're seeking the face of Allah. And you also want that which Allah has informed you and told you about, of Jannah. And the people of Sunnah wal Jama'ah, we worship Allah based off of love, hope, and fear. All three together combined. Not just a fear, not just out of love, and not just out of hope. And we're not like those who say that we don't need a reward to worship Allah. We don't need paradise to worship Allah. The Prophet ﷺ will be rewarded and will be given so much and have such a high and great status. And he never ever said, oh Allah, don't give me Jannah, I'll just worship you just for your sake. So you seek Allah's face, you seek the reward of Allah, you do it in the cause of Allah, they're all leading in the same direction. They're all leading in the same direction. You do it fi sabilillah. Okay? Whether it means a reward or whether it means sins being forgiven, Allah protecting you from the evils of sins that you may have made or you're making, etc. It's all intertwined. Wallahu alam.
Initials AH, London, UK. What should a student of knowledge do if he has made mistakes in the past when looking to get married?
Question is from London. A student of knowledge who wanted to get married and they made mistakes. Khalas. Lallahu ashaddu farahan bi tawbati abdihi hina yatubu ilayhi. Make tawbah. Make repentance. That's it. You made a mistake. You did something wrong. You wronged someone. Apologize. Give them their haqq back. Do whatever you have to do. Move forward. It's just that simple. And if the people continue to judge you or hold something over your head, that's fine. Allah's earth is ever expansive. What's important is what you're doing right now and not what you did. That's all that matters. Keep moving forward, inshallah ta'ala. And you'll find a spouse that's meant for you to find. Or that spouse will find you. Huh? Wallahu alam.
Initials AB, Cairo, Egypt. Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh. Please advise me on how one should behave who is naturally soft-natured and will be coming back from studying overseas for the first time.
Question is from Cairo. Someone who's naturally soft-natured, you're coming back from studying. What advice do you give? Don't try to change your nature. There's nothing wrong with being soft-natured. Being soft-natured is a blessing. It's a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we all know the tremendous status of gentleness, rifq. The Prophet ﷺ says anytime that rifq, gentleness is used, the thing automatically becomes more beautiful. Automatically. And anytime gentleness is not used, it automatically, immediately what? It's ugly. Sha'nahu. So Allah Azza wa Jal is Rafiq, as the Prophet says, Inna Allah Rafiqun yuhibbu rifqa wa yu'ti alayhi ma la yu'ti ala al-unf. Allah is gentle. Allah loves gentleness. And Allah allows things to take place through gentleness much more than violence. So there's nothing wrong with being mellow or soft-natured. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, when it comes time to speak up for the cause of Allah, speak up for your haqq, the haqq of a Muslim. When it comes to speaking and doing what you are destined to do, then you have to seek Allah, seek His help. Ask Him to give you the necessary courage and strength and ability to do what you have to do. And then that's it. And if you're not made to be in the forefront, to speak, to be the one enjoining the good and forbidding evil, that's fine. There's so many different aspects and avenues of da'wah. There are people who write books. There are people who study, people who research. There are people who teach classes. There are people who make ta'feed. It's not just one level. Everyone doesn't have to be the khatib. Everyone doesn't have to be the main forefront, flashy poster guy in da'wah. There are people that do research. There are people that scan books, and that's a part of da'wah. They make free PDFs. That's a part of da'wah. What's important is it depends on where you're going. It depends on who needs you. It depends on the responsibility and the weight on your shoulders. And bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, you take a step towards Allah, and we all know what will happen once you take a step towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if you have a problem with speaking up and saying the truth, if you're too soft-natured, too shy, too bashful, you have to gradually try your way to work yourself out of that. Inshallah ta'ala. And Allah knows best.
Initials AB, Brooklyn, New York. Assalamu alaikum. Does the University of Medina post an annual list of graduates like they post a yearly acceptance list for our fellow people?
Question is from Brooklyn. With regards to the Islamic University of Medina, do they post a yearly list of graduates like they post a yearly list of acceptees or those who have been accepted? Wafikum barakallah, I'm not sure. I don't know. La adri. I don't know. What's important is many brothers, they graduate. And of course, America is a huge country. Okay, let alone Canada and other parts of the world. But the United States is huge. 50 states, not including the territories. So there are all types of brothers there. How many graduate, who comes home, Allah knows best. I don't know. What's important is, what I'm trying to mention now is that no doubt the brothers, they should try their best to work together and cooperate. But it doesn't mean that everyone is going to work together on every single thing. It doesn't mean that we have to agree and we're going to agree on every single thing. It doesn't mean that every single person is going to be with. It's 50 states. Huge. Huge piece of land. Wallahu alam. If there's some benefiting you know who graduated, those brothers, then that's one thing. Wallahu alam.
Initials AA, West London, UK. What rights do Muslim prisoners have upon us?
Questions from London with regards to Muslim prisoners. What rights do they have upon us? They have rights that any other Muslim has. As long as they are upon La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, then they have hukuk, they have rights. Basic rights and special rights. A basic right of a Muslim is that you try to protect them and keep them from an oppressor. A basic right of a Muslim, you give their salams to them. They're sick, you visit them. Wahakadha. A special right, it could be a scholar in jail who has a higher status. It could be a warrior in the cause of Allah. It could be your family member, your neighbor. So it all depends. Al-Muhim is that the Muslims that have been incarcerated and they have become prisoners, as long as they are Muslim, they have rights upon us. Some of those rights, many of those rights we can uphold. And some rights we may not have the ability to uphold due to the nature of the situation. What's important is the Muslim is always supposed to be proactive against wrongdoing and against wrongdoers. And the moment that you don't take a stance and a position against dhulm and dhalimeen, it will continue to happen. And it's okay as long as it's not my son that was locked up unjustly, or my father, or my this one, or the. So we have to be mindful of this. All right, with regards to Muslims being locked up, Muslims being incarcerated, Muslims being humiliated and tortured, Muslims losing their lives for whatever the reason. For whatever the reason. Allah knows best.
Initials YQ, Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Is it shirk to watch anime with gods and idols?
Question comes from Toronto. Is it shirk to watch anime with gods, goddesses, and idols? I wouldn't call it shirk. It may have another ruling, maybe haram to watch. وَالَّذِينَ لَا يَشْهَدُونَ الزُّورَ. Okay. And the concept of يعني being free. Being يعني براء مما تعبدون إلا الذي فطرني. And Allah says that Ibrahim, he disbelieved and rejected what his people were worshipping. It says, Bura'a'u, we're free from you. وَمِمَّا تَعْبُدُونَ, from that which you worship besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the concept of looking at it, watching it, and enjoying it, it could have a different ruling, but it doesn't necessarily have to be what? Shirk. You don't believe in it and you're worshiping, but it doesn't mean it's permissible either. Wallahu alam.
Initials MW. Assalamu alaikum, Utica, New York. Are your thoughts going to be exposed on the Day of Judgment?
Are your thoughts going to be exposed on the Day of Judgment? Allah says, Yawma tubila sarair. On that day, the sarair, the secrets will be tested. Yawma tubila sarair. Alright? Allah Azza wa Jalla knows what the servant thinks, feels, does, says, etc. Alright? Wallahu alam.
Muhammad Salah, Farbaniya, Kuwait. How to stop thinking about what the next person thinks about you.
How to stop thinking about what the next person thinks about you is realize and reflect on the greatness of Allah. The greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And reflect on the measly nature of the human. Someone that's made from fluid, from a time in a state of weakness and haste. A person that grows old. A person that could do harm to his or her own self. A person that could be cheap upon his or her own self. A person that is going to turn into dust and ash. A person that can't do anything for you. Why would you be concerned with what that person thinks about you on a major scale? As far as honorable people, dignified people, your name, your reputation, you're afraid that someone will think bad of you. That's an honorable person. Then that's a different story. And that has Sophia. And that has Zojati Sophia. All right? The companions, the Prophet says, وَإِنِّي خَشِيتُ أَن يَقْذِفَ فِي قُلُوبِكُمَا شَيْئًا. He says, I was afraid that the shaitan will throw something in your hearts. It's my wife, Sophia. Don't think I'm walking with a woman that's not my wife. But that doesn't pertain to a hater or a jealous, envious person. It doesn't pertain to a low person, or what we call in America, someone who's scum. Whoever that person is, color, age, religion, someone who's scum. Their opinion, it doesn't matter what you think about me. It doesn't matter. So let's take, for example, Talabul Ilm. I'm not going to be afraid, I'm not going to care what a Muqallid has to say and feel about a fiqh opinion that I take. And this person is a what? It's Muqallid, the Muta'assib. He's a fanatical follower of somebody. I don't care if you think that my opinion is wrong, because I know what I read and what I researched. You understand? So it depends on who you mean. Who is that person that you're afraid of? Someone of nobility, a dignity? You're afraid of your reputation being tarnished? Or someone who's low and base? Also, the concept of your honor being protected and you feeling that you have to be accepted by the next person and loved by everyone and befriended by everyone, that's a problem. So my advice to any young Muslim is to handle your business and to take care of your business. If you're going somewhere to teach a class, the only thing that matters is going there and successfully teaching the class. That's it. They like it, they accept it, they praise you, they called you back, matters not. You're working for someone, you have a job, it doesn't matter if your boss likes you or not. It doesn't matter if your boss is your friend. If your boss pays you on time, you do the work, that's it, I go home. You don't have to like me. You could work for someone who doesn't like you. Okay, it doesn't matter. As long as you do what you're supposed to do, that's it. So, breathing in that time, think about the greatness of Allah and think about the lack of greatness that the created beings have. And perhaps that can help you not to be so caught up and scared and afraid and worried about what the people say about you. And know for sure that people gossip. And you can never ever please everyone. Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah, he said, Ridwa nasi ghayatun la tudrak. He says it's an unachievable goal to please everybody. If you wanted to, you couldn't. There's always going to be someone who's mad at you, who's upset at you, someone who feels left out, someone who feels, oh, you didn't do this, and you can't please everybody. Just do the right thing. Try your best to treat the people equally, or fairly, not always equally, justly, and that's it. Just that simple. And no matter what you do, you can feed someone what? For 100 days straight, and they still may what? Say, you never give me no food. You don't do this. You didn't do this. You didn't go with me this time. It's just the nature of the human being, huh? Kafur, huh? And saying is a what? Man is a open ingrate, Allah says. Huh? Wallahu alam.
Initials F8, East Flanders, Belgium. Is it true that the majority of the Muslims will go to the hellfire?
Question comes from Belgium. Is it true that the majority of the Muslims will go to the fire of hell? In general, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that most of the people will not believe. Even if you tried and struggled to call them to the haqq, walau harasta, they wouldn't believe, most of the people. That's in general. And most of the people, the Quran is full of this. وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. Most of the people know not. Most of the people turn away. Most of the people are fi ghafla. They're upon heedlessness, holding, yalabun, they play around, most of the people. That's in general. That's in general. Okay? That's first and foremost. As far as the specifics of most of the Muslims, then based off of the hadith that says there will be 73 sects of this ummah, and 72 of them will go to the fire of hell, then based off of that hadith, one could say most of the Muslims will go to the hellfire. But it doesn't mean that they'll stay in the hellfire forever. And FYI, as we say, and it's nothing wrong with people differing and having a different view or even criticizing, mashallah, la bas. We don't claim perfection, we don't claim to know everything. We've never claimed that, ever. We've never said that. Okay? So, with regards to the hadith about the 73 sects, is it an authentic hadith? Is it hadithul mushkil? Is it a problematic hadith? So somebody said, well, Sheikh Fulan, he taught this book and he didn't say that the hadith was problematic. So why is Muhammad ibn Munir saying that the hadith is problematic? This is a proof that he's not on the correct path. Is that this scholar explained the book and then the hadith was in it and he said nothing about the hadith. And you said that the hadith is problematic. if that is your scale of what's right and what's wrong, what one sheikh does and says, then I don't have anything to do with you. You shouldn't be watching my videos. You shouldn't be on my channel. If you feel that Islam and Sunnah and the way of the Salaf and Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah is based off of what a sheikh says, one sheikh, and anything he does is right and anything he doesn't do is automatically rejected, you have a serious problem if that's what you feel that you're going to stand in front of Allah with on the Day of Judgment, and that's going to be your thing which is going to save you. All right, if that's your aqeedah of Islam, that's first and foremost. And secondly is, alhamdulillah, I'm not the person who just made this up about the hadith of iftiraq being a problematic hadith or being a weak hadith. And I never said the hadith was weak. I mentioned what some ulama say. There's scholars who wrote books on this one hadith, such as the Sanani, rahimahullah ta'ala. Years ago in Medina, I bought a book, a small book that he wrote just on hadith al-iftiraq. And in that book, he quotes from other people who say that the hadith is problematic because يقضي على جمهور الأمة بالهلاك. It necessitates and requires that most of the ummah of Muhammad is going to be what? Destroyed in the fire of hell. Those aren't my words. Everyone understand this? That's first and foremost. So at the end of the day, what you should focus on and what you should worry about is working on yourself. And that hadith and other texts should scare you. Most of the people will be in the fire of hell. The hadith about the son of Adam, he'll be called out to, أخرج بعثا من ذريتك إلى النار. Take a party and a group from your progeny to the fire of hell. Okay, or the ayah لأتخذن من عبادك نصيبا مفروضا. That Iblis promised Allah, I will certainly take a chunk from your servants. نصيبا مفروضا. No doubt about it. I'm going to get a big portion of your slaves. And some of the ulama, some of the Salaf Salih, they said from every 199, 99 out of 100. So the concept of majority, that should scare you. And you shouldn't spend all of your time and energy worrying about the rest of the people. You should spend your time and energy worrying about yourself. And am I from that minority? And if I am, let me praise Allah and thank Him for that. And let me strive to save others, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, and bring them to that minority. That's my advice, and Allah knows best.
Initials MF, Staten Island, New York. What's the ruling on women cooking, caring for their mother-in-laws or in-laws in general? May Allah grant them.
Question comes from Staten Island. With regards to a woman cooking, cleaning, and serving her mother-in-law, right? Or her in-laws, what is the ruling on that? Scholars of Islam, they differ on does a woman have to cook, clean, and serve her husband. It's a very long scholastic debate of is a woman required to cook and clean for her husband. لا يختلفون في كونه من المعروف ومن الإحسان. It's a good thing to do. It's a virtuous thing to do. But they differ. Is it mandatory? Is it obligatory for her to cook, to clean, to serve her husband? Some say yes, some say no, and there's a long discussion with regards to the proofs and evidences. So if they differ on her doing that for her husband, then who's going to say that she has to do that for her what? Her mother-in-law. What's important is if it's a cultural norm for that. Al-adatu muhakkama. One of the 5 major fiqh principles is inna al-ada muhakkama. The custom is the judge. The custom is the rule. In my country, in my culture, it is an abomination for a woman not to serve her mother-in-law. They would look at it as being disrespectful, as being rude. If that's one thing, as long as it doesn't go against the Quran and the Sunnah. As far as if it isn't a cultural norm or it isn't obligatory and mandatory, then it's not necessarily mandatory and obligatory, but you should do it if you can. If you can. Okay, that's a Muslim. The Muslim is older than you, all right? The Muslim is someone that you have, sila, rahim, you're connected through marriage. It's an in-law. You should be good to them. You should be kind to them. But the problem is, if that serving your mother-in-law comes at the expense of obeying Allah and His Messenger for something else, that's a problem. Or serving your mother-in-law comes at the expense of you neglecting your own parents. Or serving your mother-in-law comes at the expense of you not doing other things which are beneficial. And they are jealous and envious and say, come and serve me instead of doing this. Or it could be envy with regards to the husband. She's envious that you stole her son from her. So you have to be mindful of these things, huh? Wallahu alam.
Initials FA, East Flanders, Belgium. Can there be Khawarij if there is no legitimate Islamic ruler for them to rebel against? Also, what makes a ruler Islamically legit?
Questions from Belgium. Can there be Khawarij if there's no legitimate Islamic authority? And what makes an Islamic ruler or leader legitimate? A very important question and a very thought-provoking question. And if you think about it, a lot of the question makes sense with regards to things being attached to other things. So first and foremost, we have the Islamic ruler. Whether you call him a sultan, khalifa, hakim, amir, al-muhim, the Islamic ruler. And then we have the Islamic land or the Islamic state. And then we have the Sharia itself. And then we have those who refuse to obey the Islamic ruler and listen to him. And they find fault in him and they want to revolt against him. And then we have those who say that Muslims who make sins are kuffar. And we don't accept these hadiths. And al-iman la yatajazza wa la yataba'adh. There's no sections of iman. There's no bid'un wa sittun shu'bah. Either you have it or you don't. So therefore, a Muslim who makes a major sin is a kafir. His blood and his wealth is lawful, etc. Alright? And then we have the opposite of that. So let's answer the question with how some people talk about, let's say for example, al-jihad fi sabilillah. So there are those who say that there's no jihad fi sabilillah. Itlaqan ala wajhi al-ard. There's no place in the world in which there's valid jihad. So obviously, another Muslim says, how can this be? And the Prophet ﷺ tells us that لا تزال طائفة من أمتي منصورين, that there will be a group from our nation that will be victorious. They will قائمة بأمر الله. They'll always be doing the right thing. Alright? How can this be? And the ulama of Islam, they said, وَأَنَّ الْجِهَادَ مَاضٍ مَعَ الْإِمَّةِ, that there's going to be fighting in Allah's cause as long as they're ai''imma, etc. How can this be? So they counter, they say, well, there's no proper Islamic government, or this, kada, and the Muslim khilaf has fallen, so therefore there cannot be no jihad. So they negate jihad because there's no proper Islamic leadership. But then they bring in another piece, which is a part of the equation, which is those who don't obey the what? Islamic leadership, such as the Khawarij. So, اتضح الإشكال, we see the problem here. As someone is saying that you can't have this because there's no that, but you can have this even though there's no that. That's not making sense. That's not consistent anymore. That's not consistent. Alright, and we've said this many times before, is that we can't pick and choose based off of convenience. We have political enemies, so we call them Khawarij. But there's no jihad. Khalas. No way. But there are Khawarij. And there's no Islamic leadership, but there's this. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. That's first and foremost. Secondly is that, as I'm given advice many times before, is beware and careful of the word Khawarij. And calling people Khawarij. Be careful of that term. That's a very serious term, calling someone from the Khawarij. That's a hukm shar'i. Bab wal asma'i wal ahkam. Giving someone a name and a title and calling them the Khawarij is not easy. It's not simple. And the Prophet ﷺ spoke on these people that will come, known as the Khawarij. Alright, and there are things of which the ulama agree regarding the Khawarij, and the things of which they differ regarding the Khawarij, like any other issue of ilm. What's important is a person criticizes a ruler, and he says this ruler is a dhalim, he's a wrongdoer, he electrocuted me in jail, he locked me up, he seized my masjid, he took my books from me, he prevented the religious people from praying, he did this, he's a wrongdoer. You can't just say, oh, you're from the Khawarij. Is it permissible to call him a wrongdoer? Is it from the sunnah to talk about the ruler? That's a different story. But just because he says something about a ruler doesn't mean he's what? From the Khawarij. Or if there's a scholar who says it's permissible to vote, or it's permissible to enter parliament, or it's permissible to protest, and that's his ijtihad, whether he's right or wrong, you can't just label him a what? Khawarij. Or if there's another person who says that we have to make jihad fi sabilillah, it's fard, it's a commandment in the Quran and the Sunnah. Man mata, walam yaghzu, walam yuhadith nafsahu bil ghazwi, mata ala shu'batan min al-nifaq. Okay, man qala alayhi sallam. The Prophet says, whoever dies without fighting and without having the intention to fight would die upon hypocrisy. So it's not a ruling that I make up or you make up. So if a person says there has to be jihad, oh, you're from the Khawarij. It doesn't work like that. It's not that simple. You can't just call someone, label someone Khawarij because they do something that you differ with or differ on or disagree with. The Khawarij have a specific way of looking at things and doing things. And it's not just talking about a ruler or talking about jihad or saying that this ruler is a kafir, he's a murtad. He said that the Quran is unfair. للذكر مثل حظ الأنثيين. It says هذا ظلم. Malish. Huh? You can't just say that like that. He could be right for saying he's a kafir or what? Or wrong. But it doesn't mean that he has the madhab of the Khawarij. The Khawarij have usul. And from those usul is what I just mentioned, is that Iman is one piece. It does not fluctuate. And this is a mistake that many students of knowledge, they make. You cannot understand madhab al-Khawarij hatta tafhama madhab Ahl-Sunnah fil Iman. What do Ahl-Sunnah believe regarding Iman? Can it fluctuate? Can it go up? Can it go low? And this is one of the reasons why the Khawarij strayed. They believe if you make a sin, there's no low Iman. You're automatically a what? Khalas, you've left the fold of Islam. And secondly, the Khawarij, they do not accept all, or if not most or many ahadith. Radduha bil hawa. And from that are the hadith concerning shafa'a, intercession. They didn't accept those hadiths. So if a person fights a ruler, or if a person says that the ruler is a fasiq, or says the person is apostate, it does not mean that the person is from the Khawarij until they have some of those other usul. I would understand this? And the ulama of Islam, they have mentioned Bab Ahkam al-Bugha. And in all books of fiqh, there's a chapter called Ahkam al-Bughat. And the Bughat are people who have a problem with the leader. They have an issue with the leader. And they say he's wrong and he's unjust. And they pick up arms against him. And they are not called Khawarij. And the reason why they didn't call them Khawarij is because they did not have those usul of the Khawarij, such as a takfir bil kaba'ir. So the concept of using the word Khawarij is not purely a scholastic issue in 2019, but it's oftentimes used by governments and supporters of governments to stifle and to silence their political opponents. Someone criticizes our regime, the easiest way to legitimize the regime and to illegitimize his criticism is to call him Khawarij. That's how it all started. And then the amateuristic young shabab, they took it and they spread it to the West. And they start calling and labeling every single person Khawarij. And what does this fool understand? Is that what's going on in Egypt, or Libya, or Syria, or Saudi Arabia, how is that helping you and your community, your people, your family? What is that doing for you? It's not doing anything for you. It's not helping you out. It's not improving the quality of life, Islamically or worldly. And you don't realize that you've been used and manipulated and caught up in a whirlwind of useless propaganda. Useless propaganda. Calling these people, getting involved with the politics of other countries that are not in your country. All right, so we said this before. We warned the youth against يَشْتَغِلُونَ بِهَذَا الشَّيْء. All right, so that's first and foremost. All right, that's first and foremost. As far as what makes a ruler legitimate, then the ulama of Islam, in light of the ayah, إِنِّي جَائِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً, Allah said to the angels that I'm making a khalifa in the land. ذكروا شروط الخلافة وشروط الخليفة وذكروا أحكام الخلافة. They mention the rulings of someone being a khalifa and how a person becomes a khalifa. Shinqiti rahimahullah, he mentions this in Adwa al-Bayan. The shurut of one nasb al-khilafa and يعني كيفية إثبات الخلافة. How is it done? It's rulings. It's not just you just say a person is a ruler or isn't a ruler. It's ahkam. I would understand this. And from these ahkam is that the person, of course, has to be a Muslim. And many of the ulama, they say that person is supposed to be mujtahid. He's supposed to be a learned scholar. And some of them say he's supposed to be Qurashi. And some of them, they say that he is supposed to be brave and courageous and pious. And there are other conditions that they mention. He has to be free. He can't be a slave. There are other conditions that you mention for him to be a khalifa. As far as a ruler who isn't a khalifa, an imam or an amir, then of course that's a branch of the khalifa. Who's appointed? On my deathbed, I leave you in charge. I put you in charge in my will. The amir is a branch of the khalifa. I mean, understand this? Some of the conditions are the same, and others what? Are not the same. What's important is the ruler is supposed to be someone who is righteous, someone who is physically, mentally, and spiritually strong, and someone who's supposed to be highborn, in which the people look up to him and they respect him, and they don't have an excuse to talk down or to disrespect his lineage and his background. And he's supposed to be someone who has the power, quwwat at-tanfidh wa sultana. He's supposed to have the strength and the ability to implement Allah's rulings upon his subjects. These are some of the conditions that the ulama of Islam have mentioned with regards to a hakim shar'i, a legitimate Islamic ruler, who has to be obeyed and listened to and followed, bil ma'ruf, in the good permissible things. All right. As far as 2019 and the modern world today and the politics today and the secular world in which we live today, then I don't think you need a 500-page book, nor do I think you need to sit down and scratch your head to realize what's going on in the world today and the countries and the politics of the world today. It doesn't take a scholar to realize what the people want and what they don't want, what they're trying to implement and what they don't wish to implement. نسأل الله العفو والعافية والسلامة. تفضل أخانا.
مشاعبة الأسئلة يا شيخ.
للأسف الله المستعان.
أحد الأسئلة أجبت عليه، هو عن الخوارج، وقد أجبت عليه حتى أعتقد اعتقاد الخوارج، لكن كنت أسأل عن الضابط، قد أجبت عليه أثناء الشرح. السؤال الثاني من باب سد الذرائع، يقال أن فلان خارجي أو هكذا، لأنه طالما أنه يتكلم عن الحكام من باب سد الذرائع أن يحذر منه أو ينبه عليه أو يحذر من هذا القول، يعني هل هذا صحيح أم لا؟
جزاك الله خيرا. قد يقال من باب يعني سد المفاسد، سد الذرائع، قضية الخروج عن الأئمة والحكام حتى ولو كانوا ظالمين، حتى لو كانوا فعلا قد خرجوا عن دائرة الإسلام. باب الدماء، الأموال، الأعراض، نحن ننظر يعني الآن ما يحصل في العالم الإسلامي للأسف. لكن أعتقد والله أعلم أن الإشكال ليس في قضية سد الذرائع. الإشكال الآن هو قضية الخلط. ناس يخلطوا، يعني لنفرض أن هذا الحاكم فعلا كافر. قد ذكر العلماء أنه لا يجوز الخروج عن الإمام الكافر المرتد إلا بشروط وضوابط. لماذا؟ لأنه يترتب عليه ما يترتب عليه من سفك الدماء واستباحة الأعراض والفروج والأموال إلى آخره. فهذا شيء. قضية يعني نحن نحول ونكون الضوابط تنعكس وتنقلب، هذا الذي أخشى منه. يعني نسمي كل من خالفنا خارجي، وكل من انتقد عالما أو واليا أنت خارجي. هذا بباب تنابز بالألقاب. قضية هل يجوز يتكلم على الحكام؟ هل كان السلف يدعون لهم أم عليهم؟ مسألة أخرى ثانية. قد يحرم الكلام، قد يحرم هذا، قد يحرم هذا. لكن قضية نصنفهم ونسميهم خوارج بكل هذه السهولة وبدون يعني أي ما تحفظ، هذا يفتح باب. فقد والله أعلم قد يقول قائل أن ما رمته من سد الذرائع كذلك يقال في التسمية بالخارجي، أنه لابد أن يحسم هذا الباب ولا يفتح باب شر عظيم نسمي كل واحد خارجي خارجي وكلكم خوارج. وفعلا يكون على مذهب أهل السنة والجماعة، ما يكفر بالذنوب، ما يرد الأحاديث، بل قد لا يرى الخروج عن الأئمة الظالمين يعني الظلمة الجائرة، لكن اجتهاده قاده إلى تكفير هذا الوالي. فقضية خلط هذا الآن لو فتح باب يعني نخلط هذا بينه وذاك يصير ما صار. عرفت كيف؟ فيعني أنا أوافق في هذه النقطة، يعني حسم باب الإفساد بالخروج والقتل والتشريد بلا شك، لكن لا يعني أننا نحول المعلومات. عرفت كيف؟ لأن لو ترك هذا الشيء لهؤلاء يصير فساد عريض جدا. بل أنت أشعري، أنت تقول يعني هذه الصفة في هذه الآية معناها كذا، أنت أشعري وهذا ما يصير. أنا لست أشعريا، أعتقد مذهب السنة والجماعة، لكن في هذه الجزئية أنا سرت مع كلام فلان ولازم الصفة كذا ولا. فهم كيف؟ فيعني لسنا نصنف ونسمي ونلقب أي شخص في جزئية. هذا الإشكال.
حتى وإن كان أصل.
كيف يكون أصلا؟ لو كان أصلا لما اختلفوا فيه.
باب الأسماء والصفات هذا أصل من أصول السنة
بصفة عامة. أنا أقصد على سبيل المثال لو سألتك ما معنى وجه الله؟ ما معنى هذه الصفة؟ طبعا أنت ستجيب وجه الله كما يليق بجلاله عز وجل. لكن هل وجد في كلام بعض المفسرين أن وجه الله في هذه الآية معناه كذا، كل شيء هالك إلا إيش معناه؟ كلام أهل التفسير موجود، ذاته عز وجل أطلق جزء عن الكل. هذه جزئية، لا يعني أني أعتقد أن وجه الله شيء معنوي، لا أبدا. لكن في هذه الجزئية ليس قضية القاعدة العامة والأصل العام. فهمت علي؟ هذا الذي أقصد يعني ما نختلف في الأصول، وإنما قد نختلف في تطبيق وتنزيل بعض هذه الأشياء في جزئيات. فبعض الشباب العاجلين يقولون هذا أشعري، هذا خارجي، هذا صوفي. إذا قلت يعني لازم نكون نحن على زهد كذا في هذه المسألة، لا ينبغي تجلس هكذا، لا ينبغي تلبس هذه الساعة تقول أنت صوفي. لا، أنا لست صوفي ولا أعتقد المذهب الصوفية، لكن في هذه الجزئية أقول كذا وكذا. هذا الذي أقصد. فهمت علي؟ والله أعلم. حياكم الله. الله المستعان. خلاص. صلى الله وسلم وبارك على عبده ورسوله نبينا وإمامنا محمد.